Well, thank you for coming. And so it's Yami, but I've always see your emails like Yamirka.
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 Mm-hmm.
Really? And that's I'm gonna botch this. Vietnamese.
No,
Filipino.
I'm from Cuba.
Jesus Christ! I was swinging a miss. I'm so sorry. Why did I think? I don't always thought.
My dad's side of the family, it's from China.
Oh, okay.
So when my ancestors came to Cuba, the last name was supposed to be SU-I. And they put Y's in everything in Cuba for whatever reason. And so they put the Y, so now it's Suyi, but it's supposed to be Suyi.
SU-Y.
Yeah.
Is that because I'm completely theorizing on my limited knowledge of Spanish? And is that because Y is yes? So it's like SU and Y and I, sorry?
No, there is no like a
There's no reason.
explanation. Like, yeah, there is not really like something tangible that you can tell like, oh, this is why. I don't know why, but it's like you see like there was like a full generation where everyone names started with a Y.
Really?
So interesting fact, I met a client like a year ago, and they are from some Eastern European country. I'm not going to try to remember where they are from exactly. And they say that Yamirka, it's a very common name on their country.
Really?
Which I thought like my name was very unique. Mm-hmm. And it was like it's not like my sister invented it when she decided that they were going to name me that. Because I know another Yamirkas in Cuba, but it's very like you only find Yamirkas from Cuba. So
it's funny with my accent, it just sounds like I'm saying yeah America. Yeah America. So like the accent's terrible for me, like my accent. So we met, actually we go way back, funnily enough, from when you did the Tuesday group at Master Networks.
Yep.
And then now it's Kevin. It was Len in between. Mm-hmm. And then we crossed paths again at the Naples group.
Yep.
How funny.
I know, right?
It's weird.
Naples, it's a very small town.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows each other. So it's very hard if you mess that up. Like everyone will
you don't
know that.
You don't want to be an asshole.
Yep. You don't want to be, on the bad list of Naples because it's a very small town.
What's the population here?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked, but meaning like on networking wise, everyone knows each other and everyone does business with who they know and who they trust. So you want to be on that good list for sure. You want to be conscious about it. When I moved from Miami to Naples, we had a glass business in Miami for quite a long time. And it was interesting because we would put an ad on a magazine, and you will know, oh, the magazine, it's publishing today, and you will like, okay, brace yourself because you're gonna get like 10 million calls on the first week and a half of the magazine being out. It was like crazy. Pretty much, you need to hire like a call center to be able to handle all of it. And so I came to Naples in 2011, and let's put an ad in the magazine, right? And we put an ad in one of those home magazines, remodeling type of deals that they have. And we were expecting the same results. Mm-hmm. No one called. There was no one phone call on the first week. So out of like, I would say we did it for like 3 months. I think that they have viewing, like they lock you in. And probably 6 calls on the entire 3 months. We were like, oh, so what do we do?
Where do we go from here?
Yeah, because that's what you knew, right? So it was until we realized, oh, we need to build the relationship and the network around us to be able to make the business successful and grow the way that we wanted. It's, a complete different market.
Yeah.
From 90 miles or 100 miles away.
Miami is it's only 2 hours away, but it's a different country over there.
It is.
Every time we drive over there, I go to Stace. I'm like, you know, you feel different. Mm-hmm. You're like, haven't even left my car yet, but as soon as I enter it, I'm like, I just feel like I'm gonna make mistakes.
How well is your Spanish? Like, how well do you speak Spanish?
I'm on like day 313 on Duolingo.
Okay.
So yo hablo español, pero no muy bien. Lo siento.
Yeah, that would be part of like, what do you feel like you're making mistakes over there? Because everyone speaks Spanish over there.
Yeah. I think I heard Tom Segura, the comedian, say that. He goes, Miami isn't America anymore. It's South America. You know, you go through South Beach, and he was walking through. He's I don't know what where he comes from exactly, but he speaks Spanish. His parents are Spanish, or Espanol. I don't. Is it Spanish and Espanol, or is it just all Spanish? People just say that for anyone who speaks Spanish.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yep.
So he does that. I don't know if he's from Latin America or he's from Spain, but he's like, he was just walking down the road and it was like probably 10 minutes of walking. He goes, I haven't heard anyone speak English yet.
Yep.
Which
even the billboards, you look at the billboards and they're in Spanish. So that gives you an idea that they are not targeting the...
Yeah, they're like, you know what? What is it? Gringos? You gringos, stay away from us.
Yeah, they don't cater to them.
Is it good? Did I get it right? Gringos are the white people?
Yeah, well, depending on where you go, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I don't know all the slang here. I feel like I'm learning not just Spanish, but like all the jargon in America as well.
Yeah. No, Miami, it's a melting pot of a lot of cultures. And you get a little bit of that in every big city that you go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you go to New York, you see a lot of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and people from everywhere. But I think Miami is like this epic center. Like you cannot point. I think at some point it was like a lot of Cubans, but that's not the case anymore. It's like a lot of different nationalities, Venezuelans. You may not be familiar with the area, but when I moved to the States in 2000 and I went to Miami, of course, because it's the natural thing to do. You know, Doral was a city not developed at all. And now I go to Doral, and what the Venezuelans have done with the Doral, I cannot recognize that anymore.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's Miami's a weird beast. My friend who lives there, when we visited in 2019, and we've been there since, but he said this, he goes, look, Miami is a sunny place for shady people.
For sure. For sure.
Because he was just telling me, he goes, yeah, like he's got friends where it's just different over there. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a lot of show, it's a lot of pizzazz. That's why, you know, it's more about the things you buy than the investment. Like you need to be seen. So it wasn't until I went there and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's very different. But then you come here and I'm telling people about doing videos for their Instagram and stuff, and it's just like, whoa, I've heard about that. Like, I feel like I'm talking about an alien.
Yeah. When we were going through the COVID thing, there were a lot of like incentive. There's still a lot of incentives out there for different industries, right? Because of the CARES Act and what they did after that. And I had people from Miami calling me because I lived there for over 11 years. So I know quite a few people, and I still have some family that are over there. And I had people calling me and say, hey, I heard that the government is giving these loans for this amount. I don't know, somebody called me $20,000. No, like where did you hear? They're giving it to everyone that has a business. No, all right. There are certain qualifications, and you know, it was just what they were doing over there. So yeah, absolutely. I'm very grateful that I'm not practicing in Miami because I wouldn't want to put my license at that risk level.
Yeah, it was a weird time because I've said this on the podcast before, but I just seem to have timed my move perfect. Like, when I was in Australia when it was beneficial, And then I moved here, and then 3 weeks later, Australia went into crazy lockdowns. Like my wife and I timed it to a T. Couldn't have been better. Where Australia shut everything down. And this is why I told Natalie here as well, because she's like, yeah, I've been thinking about getting an accountant or like a CPA. I'm like, get one. Trust me, they're worth every single cent. Yep. And I go, here's a story to illustrate why you should. The first one was when I was 21, I had an accountant because my mom just said, like, use an accountant. And I was like, all right, whatever. My girlfriend did her own taxes. I did the accountant route. We both earned the same on paper. And we worked at the same place. So basically it was carbon copy. I said to her, use my accountant. She's like $150. She goes, why would I spend that when I can do it myself? That's a waste of money. I'm like, all right, your funeral. And so tax comes back. She gets it. She goes, I got it back. I got $560. Not bad. It's pretty good. She goes, what'd you get? $5,500. She's like, what? I go, yeah. Are you happy you saved that $150 now?
I know, right?
And then the same thing, the second story I told Natalie was COVID hits. I hear, similar scenario, I hear that we're getting these, they called them job keeper. So there was job seeker, people who got laid off, and then job keeper benefits that was for companies, and you're incentivized to keep your staff. Mm-hmm. Job keeper, you got $750 a week to keep, and so that you had to. This is where Australia got it right, and America kind of intentions great, execution maybe not as great. America kind of gave the money to the companies. Companies went, thanks, laid off everyone anyway. Australia had, you get $750 per staff member, and you have to pay them that full amount. And if you don't, you get fined out the wazoo. Mm-hmm. So people that were being hit up by the only problem that was broken was if people were getting paid $500, they had to be paid $750. So these people are like getting pay rises. Like, this is fantastic. This is huge. Whereas if you're getting paid, say, $1,000 a week, you would be paid the $750. The company had to pay the $750 and then bridge that gap. So it helped a lot of people keep their jobs. People were exposing their companies that were like emailing them going, hey, we'll give you this, but you need to give us this part back. They were getting fines left, right, and center. So they executed that well, whereas here's what the money's intended for, and we're going to hold you accountable to it. I was a sole proprietor, but I set up my business as a company, mm-hmm. and then I was an employee. Mm-hmm. So I got $750 a week. I still kept most of my business anyway running, but I was like, this is just an extra $750 a week for me. I did nothing. The accountant was just like, yep, no worries, here you go. Each month I'd get $3,000 sent to me. I'm like, this is fantastic. And then 4 months into COVID or so, I get a notification on my bank app. ATO, which is our IRS, has sent you $9,862. Whoops, this must be a mistake. Mm-hmm. So I call my accountant. I'm like, hey, do I have to send this back? Like, this is clearly a mistake. And she goes, oh, good, you got it. I'm like, got what? She goes, well, that's an incentive for businesses. Like, they give you $10,000 minus whatever the thing is they calculated. And it's just incentivized for you to spend money, and it's tax free. I was like, great. and so my fee for her in this case was 2,000 Australian. But I'm like, even if I back up the whole year, again, she's been saving money the whole way anyway.
Yep.
In COVID, I did nothing. She got me probably $50,000 in my pocket. I don't think I deserved it. Mm-hmm. But if that's the game, I'll play the game. And, after I told Natalie that, she's like, I'm going to have to find an accountant. I'm like, yes, do it. It's not worth trying to figure it out and juggle, jump through the hoops.
Yeah. Like everything, right? You can become an expert of mm-hmm. anything nowadays with the internet being so available and people doing TikToks and YouTube videos and showing you how to do everything. So that's that. And then the second part is there's always the bad apples on the professions that, like people get to know them and they are not they are not there for you. They're not as proactive as your accountant was trying to get you the money, and you didn't even realize that you have been, keeping it the way that it should be so that you could get this money, or that, there are accountants that only you get to see them when you have to file the taxes. So it is a balance of people actually receiving the value out of paying the fees. But most of the people have the preconception that you go to the accountant just to file the taxes. And if that's the only thing that you're getting, if you're not picking up the phone like you are, and you're not using that accountant, then that's why you get people saying, I can do it myself. I can do the same thing, right?
Yeah, I would. It's funny because I'd be learning stuff, and obviously there's a lot more information on how tax works coming from America, because America is so forefront in social media and content and, bigger population. So I'd hear something about how it works in America. I call my accountant. I reckon I called her probably every 2 months. Hey, I heard this. And she goes, yeah, that doesn't apply here. I'm like, all right, thanks again. All right, here's something. I'm like, hey, if I did this or that. She goes, look, you can, but that's a gray line. That's a fine line. If you go on the wrong side of the line, you could be up for big fines or big problems. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying these are things. Right. Be careful if you choose to go that route. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay on this side of the line.
Yeah. It's like everything. Like, I'm all about tax planning and strategies. That's what I enjoy. When I get to save my clients money on their taxes, or strategizing for whatever they're trying to do, like preparing for a big sale in the near future, things like that, and getting it accomplished. I'm all about that. However, I hear, like, for example, somebody came to me from another CPA, and they were saying, my CPA told me that I could pay my kid, and this is November, and I can pay it from now until December, $12,000, because that is the max that I should be paying. I'm like, no. Or that CPA is signing that return. I'm not the one doing that. My daughter, it's an employee of my business, and she handles like postings and admin stuff, but she actually goes to the office. She works, she shows up, and I pay her X amount of money, and she's responsible for her savings. She's responsible for her expenses. So it is a strategy, and it's a valid strategy. However, you cannot come and just pay them at the end of the year unless it's like for a specific project that you're using them. Yeah.
Also, a lump sum at the end of the year would be a biggest red flag for the IRS.
Yeah. Do you want to pay them the $12,000 on December 25th?
It's the end of year bonus.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of strategies. You just need to plan for it and do it correctly. Yeah. You don't want to get in trouble. It's not worth it.
Yeah. It's just, it feels like it's a game. Like all of life is a game, but it really is like, all right, if I move this here and I do that here, everyone says it's avoiding taxes. It's like, no, I'm using the benefits that the government is there. Like the government's benefits are there to incentivize more spending.
Yep.
And so it is really just, I don't know. I think that was the thing that was liberating for me in terms of how can I see it like a jigsaw puzzle, which is why it's like whenever, with my accountant, it was always like, oh, I heard this. And she's like, no. I'm like, come on, what about this? She goes, yeah, that works. I'm like, yes.
The government uses taxation to incentivize certain behaviors, right? Whatever they want to promote. And you just need to know and understand enough so that you can use it in your favor.
Yeah.
It is there. I'm part of this group where we do a lot of like proactive planning, and they bring a lot of like the specialists that I use on my planning to the table. And we meet twice a year. And in one of our meetings, we were going over one of the judges, and I'm terrible with names, so I'm not going to remember the name, but it was a tax core judge. And he would say, I come to work every day, and I have two possible ways to get here. One, it's to get this bridge and pay a toll of $10. Or I can go this other route, and I don't have to pay anything. I'm not doing anything illegal for taking the other route. It is my conscious choice to either pay the toll or take the other route, which is complete legal choice. So there's nothing wrong with taking the other route.
Yeah. And see, my brain works out. You know what it is? How much is the gas? Like, I have to. People have heard me say to me sometimes before. Like, I've looked now at with my hairdressers. My prime example is $10 to get her to come to my house, but I know that it's an hour and a half of my time that I'm buying back. But it's not $10. It's like it's probably like $6 to $7 in gas, give or take. So I'm like, I'm paying $3 to $4
plus your time.
Yeah. I'm paying $3 to $4 to buy an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So it's like all those things, but I can't help it. The second
it's
you
the
use
way
that example,
that everyone should think.
Yeah.
And I see it a lot with people, and one big example is retirement planning. For example, if you're a self-employed individual, you get to do like this SAB, and you can put up to, every year up to inflation, but let's say like $57,000 into it, depending on the self-employment income and all that. So it has some limitations. I tell people, well, if you are below a 20% tax bracket, let's analyze this. How much you really, because it's not that you're making the tax disappear, you're just pushing it for the future. Once you retire and you start taking money out of this pot, it's going to be a taxable event for you. So what bracket are you going to be paying it in the future?
True.
Doesn't make sense for it. So yeah, I think that way too. And I think that's for the benefit of my clients. And I feel like I wish that all my clients will think that way too, and not, go so distracted with shiny objects, or let's be analytical of them. Like, how much benefit is really this shiny object giving you? Is it worth it? And I think it's my role.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine a few weeks ago, because him and his wife, she does realting, and he does he used to do construction, now they flip houses. And he was saying to me about, they were looking at buying something like a Prius or a Honda, like a cost-effective car, or a $120,000 Porsche 911 Carrera. And he's like, do you know that the Porsche is cheaper? She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, it's like one of those where it's like 6,035 pounds. And
okay,
it's just over, Yep. And so he goes, so across 5 years, we save that on tax benefits, and that Porsche will be cheaper across 6 years than that whatever car it was. And it was like this for her. She's like, what? Because we see people with, again, like you see someone in a Porsche 911, you're like, wow, they're doing really well. And they are. You don't think like, oh, that was the cheaper option.
My husband is the cars guy, right? He's the one always thinking about, let's trade in. I'm tired of this car. I don't care what I drive. And anytime that he starts like shopping, I won't go with him because I don't enjoy it. So he will call me once he has found something that he thinks I'm going to be okay with it. But my first question, and he knows this already, is how much it weighs.
Well, that's why I put a what is it? The Tesla Cybertruck. That when it's 6,023 pounds. I was like, cool. I'm putting
23 enough.
But that thing goes. It goes from 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds.
Yeah, he has a deposit for one of those as well.
The good old $100.
Yep. He actually had a deposit from way before COVID started.
Yeah, it was like 2019 or something.
And he makes me, every time that we go to Waterside, he stops by and he's like, so where are we now with this? He keeps asking and asking. I'm like, okay, one day.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many are on the road by the time it's finally out. Because do you know if he got the single, double, or tri motor?
No clue.
Do you know how much it is going to be when it comes out? Was it 80K or closer to like 40?
No idea.
We don't know. Because I got the tri motor because I was like, I'm just going to go
all the way.
Full blown, balls to the wall.
Thing with Tesla, it's with me anyways, it's like a love-hate relationship because I love them. However, they are no longer giving you the tax credits incentive for it.
Yeah.
That other electric cars are.
That's the government though, isn't it? Or is that Tesla?
That is the government. It is because it's given on a certain amount of cars. Like you have to, like you get it for the first $200,000 cars that you sell. And of course, Tesla, it's way over that. While other ones, and you get it for normal, like the full electric ones, but you get it for some hybrid ones as well. They still have the credit available. So when you look at $7,500 on credit, which is $1 per dollar deduction. So for me, I told my dad, it's like, depending on your tax bracket, that can be $40,000, $60,000 of taxable income that is wiped out by a tax credit. So it is very hard for me to agree to a Tesla situation before considering any other electric car.
Yeah.
But I mean, the pickup, I think it's unique to them, right? I don't know if there's only other pickup electrics out there.
What, the pickup was it?
The truck, the full truck.
Oh, the truck. Yeah, the truck is, it just looks cool.
Yeah.
It looks so cool. And how powerful it is, like, because I had a truck when I first came here, and I'm like, these things guzzle gas. I'm like, this is not cost effective at all. You know, so I got rid of that, well, quick as possible, and then got a Jeep Cherokee. Thing's great, fantastic, but yeah, it's always like trying to figure out those numbers. There's something, because I did 3-unit maths, engineering, physics in high school, anything that was number related, because I liked that it was you're right or you're wrong. It's not like English or creativity where there's, you know, this person hates it, this person loves it. There's so much gray. Yep. And so that's why I initially wanted to be an accountant, because I'm like, I love numbers. I must love accounting.
We're hiring.
Problem was I did like a work experience thing in year 10. I was like, I hate it. Like, I'm out. But again, I still jumped so far into it because it always, like, again, it's that game. Like, hold on. So I do this. And this took me a long time to understand too, because I used to just focus on how much money I'm pulling in, you know, versus, again, like with the podcast, I pay someone to edit the clips. That frees up 10 hours of my life each week. That's huge. And then I'm just about to spend $3,500 on a computer because I'm like, that will cut out 3 to 4 hours a week of exporting. So I'm not even there for the computer half the time, but it's going to cut out. So now I've just bought, what's that, like 600 hours a year.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so that's, I guess, the game of, especially what would you do, which is, it's constant juggling and figuring out this massive jigsaw puzzle that is capitalism.
Yeah. Trying to make sense out of all of it. Yeah.
And so what type of people are you really looking for? Actually, I mean, I kind of know what it is, but what you do, but so you're a concierge. Let me get it straight, because knowing me, I probably fucked it up. I'm sorry. Concierge CPA. You know, just not just anyone. It's more of an extra touch to it. So
yes, extra touch, extra people on your engagement. I always create like a full team of people, depending on what level of engagement you are around you. Kind of giving the client the ability to decide when, you know, like maybe let's give you a try first, right? And let's just start with the basic levels of services and see what can you do there for me. And once that gets going and you understand more of the concept, then we can move into other levels. So that's why I still have those lower level packages type of deal. It's more for the try on people that, you know, don't understand the concept of what we are creating at our firm. Most CPAs, you know, like there is a partner on the engagement and then you have like a staff, but there is no other CPAs or other like big minds around that engagement. We work on a team, very collaborative around the client. So it is a little bit different. You have to come to the table with an open mind.
Yeah.
It is funny because every time that I get a phone call, oh, I'm looking for a new CPA to do my tax return, and I respond, that's not what I do.
Yeah. Yours so it's more like a
People
bigger
jump.
picture sort of.
It is.
It's a game plan scenario.
It is a lot of planning, and the planning can go from a lot of different aspects. It can go to the financial aspect, to what is the challenge that you have right now that it's not allowing us to move forward where we need to go, right? One client that we just did recently, he's on the advisor, like almost my higher level of advisory services. And we were trying to do all this bunch of stuff with the planning and the budgeting and the strategies and getting you to the final destination of the business, which is like hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, selling that business. But he was struggling with a key position on the company, and that was dragging him back because he had to fulfill the duties of that key position. And he had hired on his own like 4 different people, and nothing worked. And we finally said, we need to come and be part of this hiring team. And we did that for him.
Yeah, wow.
So you wouldn't expect a CPA to do that, no. Right? It was just like, we understand you, we understand the business, and we understand why you're not being successful on this hiring process. And so far, it's working really well. He filled the position, and it's going well. So now we can concentrate on, okay, let's go back to the original thing and, diversify on what is the goal and what is the next step that we can move forward. But we can be an advisor on different levels, and we do have the resources to bring to the table that, can fulfill those needs at different type of engagements that you wouldn't expect at a CPA level.
Yeah, okay. It makes sense too, because at the end of the day, their success is your success as well.
Yep.
Which, it is funny when you hear other businesses and they're like, well, we just do this. It's like, well, dude, if you can, that again, you get help back.
Yep. Yeah.
So with like, who are the type of people you're looking for exactly?
Our ideal client, it's somebody that realized that, like they have a successful business, but they are to a point where to move forward or to get to the end game, whatever that is, a succession plan with a key employee or somebody of the family, or selling the business, they need that extra advisors on the table. So instead of like going out and trying to hire a CFO and trying to hire like full-time CFO and trying to hire like a full-time board of directors, you can have us.
Yeah.
That is the ideal client. And the feedback that I get from most of the clients that are at this level with me is like, oh, you don't charge me enough. And I feel like I am, like it's just the value that they perceive from the services that they're getting.
Yeah. Well, that's the benefit with what's happening now with, it feels like everything becomes more compartmentalized. So you can build a business without really having the traditional core stuff. Like you said, you don't need a CFO. You need an accounting firm that acts as your CFO. So instead of you having one person who charges, making numbers up, 250 grand a year. Now you've got 50 people with 50 different ideas, 50 man hours per hour of the day that charges $50,000 a year. I mean, I'm making those numbers up, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's the same with, that's why with what I'm doing with editing, I'm outsourcing, even though I do video production. I hired an editor. Now, yes, she's part of my team, but then she has a network of people in the other stuff that she's doing while also editing for someone different. So she learns from him, comes to me. Then as I, want to build something else, I don't try and look particularly for hiring a person. It's like, if I can outsource the ads part, all right, who's a good team that I can use? I can do the creative, here you guys go, you guys tell me what works and we work together, versus trying to hire someone full-time.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's going that direction now with business a lot.
Because you have the workforce. It's in a complete different mindset. No one wants to work anymore 9 to 5. And
also the internet though too.
Yeah, no one wants to be at an office constantly, right? They want to manage their own time. They want to have the freedom. So you can still offer that, and now they're not your employees any longer. So take advantage of, that's what people want. Perfect. They don't care about a retirement plan and a pension anymore, or they don't care about benefits anymore. They figured out on that part on their own.
Yeah.
Be it, right? So.
Yeah, and so because you can operate anywhere in America, technically, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, because that'd be a cool thing. I mean, we've discussed as well with the content strategy for you guys. That again, with the internet, of you can be hired by someone in Arkansas or California. So this is what the cool thing is with hiring, for example. I mean, with my business, I fired the guy from Atlanta that I never met, and hired a girl from Miami who I've never met.
Yep.
It
is, and the beauty of it, it's like now you're not limited to the region talent.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the business lawyer that I use for my high level cases, like I have relationship with a few local lawyers that I do, like all the operating agreements of the world, like all the standardized type of stuff. But if I want somebody to deep dive and something that needs a lot of expertise type of case, he's in Vegas. And that we're going through a rebranding on the firm. I'm bringing new partners, things like that. He is handling all of that for me as well. Because once you get to work with him, who was a CPA, decided to go into tax law, then he has practiced for a number of years in corporate law, and he has an estate and trust background. He is a pretty complete type of guy that I don't need to be worried. Like I deal with another local lawyer, and she was doing this deal for one of my clients. And when he came back, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense from the tax standpoint. And then I have to call the lawyer and be like, what are we doing here? You're creating a taxable event for this client, which we shouldn't have. And I don't have to worry about that with him because he understands every single part of the puzzle. So why would I use somebody else?
Yeah. And also, I guess as well, like instead of having a CFO in this example using you, there's also, again, now you've got your network to find other people. Again, and then if you don't know the right person, you ask your team of however many people who they might know something else.
Exactly.
It's like that trickle down effect where, it's a cool shift that seems to be happening in.
I think it's for a lot of the client's benefit, the business owner's benefit, because what I have seen when I come to the accountant, right? I don't come from to be the advisor. Like these people get intimidated. Let's say I have worked with clients that had a CFO and had a controller and had a full accounting department in place. And instead of embracing the idea, I feel like the CFO created a barrier where he was like, I don't want to get fired type of deal, right? Why wouldn't I be the one bringing these resources to because you're just one person, that you're just working for one company, and it's a complete different. Let's be your back office. Use us. And most, like I would say 90% of the time, they would put like a roadblock. So they were not thinking about the client. They were not thinking about the client's business. They were thinking about themselves. And it's the nature of humans.
Yeah.
I see it all the time too with financial advisors. When I get a referral from a financial advisor for a client, more often than not, the financial advisor is the point of contact for that client. And then things happen because it's miscommunication, right? Why are not we having meetings with you and the client when none of that happened? What they do, it's like, oh, here are all the consolidated 1099s, prepare this tax return. Well, something new happened during that year. We don't know. Who would tell us? Things like that. It's not for the client's benefit when the advisors around them don't want to work on a team. Yeah,
that's the tricky thing with, maybe actually now we're speaking about it, that kind of is the benefit, I guess, of being able to outsource because you're judged purely on your results, whereas an employee, the new shift with the internet right now is terrible for micromanagers. Terrible. You know, like I get that with I do stuff for my father-in-law with his business. Because he doesn't see me work, he doesn't get it. So he's like, I don't know why I'm paying you. I'm like, your social media is up 10,000%. Like that's, you know, he's like, but, and like, obviously when he looks at me, I'm not talking to anyone. I'm on my computer. Now and then, sure, I get distracted. I'm like swiping. I'm like, what am I doing? Put it back down. Like, but I go, the numbers don't lie, you know, like your 5-star reviews, because he wanted me to improve his SEO, which I'm like, SEO is kind of funky still, in my opinion. It's more about attention, and that's why social media interaction is the best way to improve your SEO, because people are always connecting. But part of it also is your reviews. I got his 5-star reviews from the start of the end of January, 78 to it was at 78, and that's the last 15-20 years. It's at 156.
Oh wow!
In four months, was that 3-4 months? And they're detailed. It's not like there's a few just 5 stars and nothing. There's probably like 6. Everything else is freaking novels.
Yeah.
Of explanations. And granted, like, look, I wasn't the one getting them, but what I did to build the system was and this is like, it's again what you said, what you were saying with what you do. I came in for one thing, which is videos. Couldn't help myself but be like, hey, this needs to improve, that needs to improve, this needs to streamline. And so I was like thinking of the customer's point of view, because before it was like, all right, you just got to do these 4 steps and you can leave a review. I'm like, 4 steps? Yeah. No, make it 1. And so I did this whole thing with like a little pamphlet sort of printout with a QR code, a face of the technician. So they all had their personalized ones. So it makes it personal with the person or the customer. And then a blurb. So, you know, when you're reading it and there's a photo of someone, you read it in their voice.
Yep.
And then that QR code went to the website. So we capture them in the Facebook pixel so we can retarget them if we want. And then it's 1 click, up pops Google reviews. So it's scan, tap, click, boom. That's it. And in that, like, our goal for the year was to double.
Ready.
We secured it in 7 weeks. Like, they've got 96 reviews in the last 10 weeks.
Oh, wow.
96.
Wow.
I think 1 4-star and everything else has been 5.
Oh, wow.
But again, that was just, I couldn't help myself but get involved in that, because I'm like, this is how you do this. But he's funny because he is a little bit of a micromanager, or it's out of sight, out of mind. And then later he's like, why am I paying that? Because obviously I'm his son-in-law. I'm always in conversation, or, you know, through the wife or whatever. But I'm like, Steve, like, we secured a $4,500 termite job yesterday, and she said it's because she looked up the reviews and she read them. She was like, when the technician said it's, you know, 4,100, sorry. She was like, cool. And so that's how I found out, because he called me. He goes, dude, everything you're doing is insane. Like, the technician was like, he goes, I didn't even sell it. Like, the reviews sold it.
Yeah.
And I was like, great, that's fantastic. But yeah, I can't remember how we got onto that, but we did. So you've just rebranded, because I know whenever I email you, I say Suyi CPA because I never can remember.
Yeah.
What's the new name? Because you just partnered with Kevin, correct?
Yes. It's CPA, CPAs, and Consultants.
CPA, CPAs, and Consultants. Yep. CPA's nice.
CPA, it's nice. It cost me a lot of headaches with the DBPR to get my license approved.
Why CPA? Was there any reason behind it?
CPA is a tree.
Okay.
So it is a tree that it's from the Caribbean, and in Cuba, for example, that's where I got the idea, and then I learned more from other cultures about it.
CPA is very similar to Cuba.
Yeah.
I feel like an idiot just saying that out loud.
So ceiba, it's a tree in Cuba. It's a very big tree, right? It has like these deep roots. And when we were having like a hurricane or anything, like your grandmas, the moms would tell you if anything happens to the house, you go to that ceiba tree because that ceiba tree is standing there. So it represented security. It represents, you know, like it will always bring shadow. Like it's a huge, very, very full type of tree. So when we were going with the marketing agency about the strategy of like a name, I'm like, I really don't know what like name, you know, like you see every other CPA firm and it's like everyone's names on the wall. And I did wanted to change it. So not only because bringing new partners, how many names are we going to have there, but like also I wanted to find like a thing that represented more than the partners. And more because we're a team of people working for you. And so when we're talking about it, they were like, okay, so think about something. What does the firm represent to you? And I'm like, I want my clients to feel that we're there for you no matter what, that we represent stability, that would represent that secure place that you can go whenever you're facing a challenge. And so we come up with the name. Then I went to Cancun on a vacation, and they have ceiba trees over there. And I learned that the Mayas used to call it like the tree of life because it was the roots were so deep that they thought that they were, you know, like going from the underworld, and it grows so high up that then it will take you all the way to heaven. So it was kind of interesting when we were doing all that, like learning the religious and the different cultures approach to the ceiba tree. And I felt like, you know, it was a good fit for what we wanted to do with the firm.
Yeah. So many layers to that. I was just thinking like plant a tree and plant a seed and invest.
And grow with us. So I did a presentation recently. And of course, everything that I do with Suyi, it's white and black. So now the ceiba tree, I didn't give up all the white and black, but I put like a little bit of gold in there. So the presentation is with different color schemes. And the first slide was like two hands with a tree. And it says, come grow your business with us.
I like it.
Yeah. I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Humans, we want stories.
Yep.
Everything's about a story. I literally speaking with Sid about it because Sid, who was on just before, he helps with public speaking. And yeah, stories, it's they're the hardest thing to master, but the most powerful.
Yep. And that was something because at the beginning when I first came up with the ceiba tree, I say I like what it represents, but no one is going to know what ceiba means. And that's what happens with DBPR. They were calling me back and sending me emails saying the name is deceiving. And I'm like, what do you mean deceiving? And finally somebody said, well, no one is named ceiba at the firm. And I'm like,
That's the prerequisite for all CPAs, is it? Like the companies have to have a name.
Exactly. So I'm like, it's a tree. Like there's not different if I want to say like Oaks CPA or, you know.
Could you imagine if that was other industries? Like someone makes like Nike. Sorry, there's no one named Nike. Did you mean Mike? Like that is so, isn't that funny how it, like it's a certain industry, how people want to pigeonhole something.
Yep.
You know, like this is how it is. Mm-hmm. And that's how it always will be.
Yep.
It's even something like a name.
Yep.
Isn't that is funny?
It was literally like we wanted to do the rebranding for January. We thought like, okay, we're gonna see every single one of our clients, so let's get it out there. And we couldn't get the name approved until like beginning of March or something like that.
Because it was deceiving?
Because it was deceiving and back and forth. And Kevin was taking care of it.
Yeah.
So he's like sending letters and this and that. Finally, I'm like, I'm going to get involved. And of course, I'm girl, I'm Hispanic. So I play like all the cards that I had on there, like all my minority cards. This is racist. And I'm like,
you pulled the racist card?
I put everyone in there. So funny enough, they gave us the license.
I think you're a white supremacist.
They gave me the license, and they didn't even send it to me. So I had to go and get it from the website. This
is because you're a man, I can tell. Oh, that's great. See, I'm screwed. I'm a white male. Like, I got nothing. I could probably play racist because I'm Australian. I don't know. I got nothing.
You have not a lot going for you.
Yeah, like, it reminds me of that Louis C.K. joke where he's just like, white male, can't hurt my feelings. Oh man, that's funny. I'm so impressed you played that card.
It was like 2 months into this, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I was sick in the middle of season, and I'm like, I'm taking care of this. And sure enough, a week later, we look into the website, and it was approved. They never send you a letter saying you have been approved or
passive
anything.
Aggressive.
I'm like, whatever, lady.
Oh man, that is so fascinating. That the fact they couldn't grasp the concept that maybe you don't want your name on something. Well,
it tells you about the profession, right? How inside of the
cookie
box,
cutter,
it is. And I think I have going for me that I was a business owner before I became an accountant. So I try to, think different.
Yeah.
You look at CPAs, no personality, it's a very, you look at them and they talk to you and they don't look you in the eyes. And they're afraid to tell you how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, because that's one of the things I tell a lot of people. With all of them, like, figure out what the industry, stereotypes. A stereotype's there for a reason, because that's been the majority. Figure out what that is, utilize what's useful, and just get rid of the rest.
Yep.
Usually what I say to clients often, I'm like, why don't people trust your industry? Address that straight away, I did that with Dr. Michelle. I go, most people think your stuff's kooky. So that's going to be your first sentence in your welcome video on your page, which is her first sentence isn't, hi, I'm Michelle, I do this. No one cares. Like, I've already checked out as a viewer who doesn't, like, I've got zero interest as a viewer. But if what she did, which was, most people think that naturopathy is a hocus pocus form of medicine. That's the first sentence. And so you'd be like, either you go, yeah,
it isn't.
Yeah. Or, no, I don't believe that. But either way, you're going to listen to a bit more. And then she sort of, explains how it works. But it's an accusation audit, which is, I know what I'm going to be accused of. So I'm going to audit that now by saying, hey, this is what you probably think. And it's the same with, what do people expect from CPAs in accounting? Just do it slightly different. You've already put yourself above the rest, That's why with my doing what I do, which I'm like, hey, make content for your business, because of that reason. I was doing it, but trying to juggle as well, that plus find clients so I can, pay my bills, that I ended up going to a point, you know what, stuff it, I'm gonna screw the bills for a second. I'm just going to reinvest everything, and I've got 2-3 videos a day coming out.
Yep.
Because that was the one thing I couldn't stand to see, which was all these companies in the area, you should be doing this post and this and that. I'm like, okay, one, do you do it? And then you go to their page, they barely do it themselves. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. Or they're doing it and the results aren't that great, and which makes me concerned, because I'm like, oh, hold on, you're not really testing this. And I saw that with the pest control, with their videos, the guys that were doing their posts. I was like, okay, these guys are charging you. They're doing the thing, which is posting. You guys have 11 to 20 impressions a month, a week. I get involved in the first month, I mean, yes, they had a paid component as well, but with engaging, a video, they went from 10 impressions to, I think it was about 7,000 impressions a week.
Wow.
Like, not even a little jump. And that funny thing was, that was me just applying probably 3 hours of work, not even, which is again why he was like, well, I don't see why I'm paying you. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yes, I didn't do a lot in terms of what is perceived effort, but your results are through the roof.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing that now with what we do. We're testing stuff with the new YouTube Shorts, which is basically YouTube's thing. Have I told you this? With like, it's their version of TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm noticing now, because we've been doing it for the podcast every single day. There is one clip every single day. The beauty is you can schedule it. I'd have one pop off now and then. Some of them get like 10 views, but then one will pop off and I'll have like 2,000 views. I'm like, all right, cool. And then 3 days later, it'll be like 0 views, 10 views. Again, one will pop off. I'm like, okay. Now, because we're getting more consistent, the popping off is kind of happening every second day. And so the channel's only a month old, but it's had 17,000 views and 110 hours watched.
Oh, wow.
Same with Instagram Reels. We're testing it. All right, what times, what days? All right, cool. Like, I posted a reel. I've been posting my reels at 7 a.m. They were getting about, 1,500 views. Okay. Posted it at 9. So it's 6 a.m. at the east, West Coast. I need my compass for a second. And now they're getting, 3.5 to 5. Posted it at 10 today by accident. Wasn't even on purpose. I thought I posted it to close, like it was started the sort of downloading part onto Instagram, closed my Instagram, went back up on 10 a.m. and then it finished it. It's had like 200 views. I'm like, oh, but I learned something, and also it doesn't matter. It's like, all right, cool, whatever. But I delete that post. I repost it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing. And then I was saying to Stace, and this is where I think we've said, you can start overlapping your stuff. Yours is kind of unique because some of it might be time sensitive. Some of it might not be. You can start after a while. So now that we're like a month in, so I've got 30 clips already. Some of them are timeless. But I'll start posting 2 a day in month 2 and having a little bit of overlap. And then after a while I can have 3 a day, stuff that doesn't really matter time-wise. But now I've got that content going out, and we're also still along the lines, like figuring out and fine-tuning, okay, what's working, what isn't working. Sometimes you don't even know why. My editor messaged me yesterday. She goes, so she's curious, what duration seems to be popular? So I have a look at it. I'm like, 9 seconds, 56 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 seconds. It's across the board. But like I said, that stat, we have no idea. But yeah, that was the thing where I just said that. I found it so weird that me being different was me doing what I'm telling you should be doing.
Yeah.
Like that. But that was just my own, like, again, I hate being a hypocrite. I hate do as I say, not as I do. That I just said, you know what, I have to take the short-term hit financially where it's, I'm reinvesting 50% of what's coming in, but I know it'll pay dividends. And same with your stuff. I love that the name is, for starters, I find it hilarious that they found it weird that it was not a name, but I love that. And the fact you've got a story behind it too. Like, was that your thing, or did you use a marketing company to help develop that as well?
I used a marketing company to help develop. I actually used 2 different marketing companies. One, it's part of that network of people that work with me. And they have their own marketing team, and I can use it. It's not for my clients, but for me personally, since I'm part of the network, I can use it very affordable. So I use them to kind of like develop colors and the name and like the logo, things like that. They will help me out with it. And then I use somebody else to come up with a strategy of how are we doing the rebranding, what it's first, and other part of it as well.
What was the process of that? Because my process is super different because it's fast paced. So I've never really been involved with a full rebranding before. And this is obviously completely different to CPA accounting, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What was the process of that? Because the original goal you said was January.
Yep.
Obviously.
We started in October.
It's October. Okay.
Talking about it. In October, I started saying, I see a lot of my clients that build these businesses, and they build the business around them. So when you remove them, the business is gone and there is no value, right? And there is a destination to every business. Even if it's closing the door and shutting it down, you need to understand where you're going.
Yeah.
Flexible, right? You need to be flexible to get there, but you need to understand, hey, my plan is to sell the business, or I think that my kids are going to inherit it and, you know, and do this for generations to come, or key employee type of succession plan, or I'm just going to work until the day I die and then people can figure it out after, right? It's none of my business anymore. But so I said, you know, like, I want to build this, and I want to build it as a brand, and I want to build the business as more than Yami. I would love to offer kind of like a safe thing for CPAs to come in and either work for me on that contractor capacity, where we can show them this is what you should be doing and this is how you should be treating clients. I would love for clients to get more of people that care and want to do the right thing and want to understand your business and want to help you build it, and they're passionate about it, versus that people that don't like the profession and they just do it because we have a very low rate of unemployment, and you know, like they made it to partner but really with no proper training to get there. And so anyway, so I would like for this to be more than just me in the future. So that's how we become a team to get to the table. And I realized, like, hey, we're building this, we're getting a lot of traction, a lot of success on what we're doing. How can I just not do it where people are calling and say, I want to talk to Suyi. You know, there is no more Suyi. There is the firm, and the same level of service that they're going to get from me, they're going to get it from my staff, they're going to get it for my directors, they're going to get it from anyone that they need to talk to.
Yeah. And you'd still be like the captain of that ship, like for a while too, because I've seen a lot of humans now, where businesses used to be able to really hide behind the brand, social media has made it more personal, which is kind of cool. So like you've got Gary Vaynerchuk, he's the lightning rod that pulls people to the firm of VaynerMedia. You know, they come across his content where he's talking about cards, like trading cards or whatever, and then they find out like, oh, you have a production company, you also have a ad agency. All right, tell me about that. So he directs them to the right people. That probably could be the great next step for you for the next, you know, however long, where it's, you know, you or Kevin or you and Kevin are the lightning rods and the captains. Then it's like, yeah, you pull people in direct. Because that's my strategy with this, where again, at first I was thinking, all right, I'm going to do the videos, edit and all that. I'm like, no, I need to be the lightning rod.
Yep.
And again, that's the goal. Be the most known person in Southwest Florida, so that, you know, people go, oh yeah, you're an expert in Southwest Florida. Cool. Here's my team. Yeah.
That is the idea. That is the idea, to make it where everyone recognizes the brand. But of course, we also have our own personal brand. Yeah. But separate from the brand itself.
Yeah. Yeah. The what is it? Attention is the currency these days. It always has been, I think. But social media, internet. I hate the word social media has really just been. It's been bastardized. I hate the word now. Like Stacey's doing something with her thing because she does relationships, and she sort of helps women with relationships and stuff. Like, and that nature. But then when our relationship wasn't picture perfect, like as in nothing wrong or nothing even uncomfortable bit, she had a real issue. And I kept saying to her, I'm like, that's what a relationship is. If it's always good, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And this video, she's finally coming back. Your thing is, you need to lean into how the internet, and I say the internet because that just sounds nicer instead of social media. The internet skewed your relationship perception of what is real. Like everyone talks about body issues and because the girls are always taking photos or the guys are always taking photos in the best light versus like the camera's off and it's like, oh, relax.
Yeah.
The same thing is happening with relationships, and it was affecting Stace because she'd see picture perfect moments or curated and all that. And I said to her, I'm like, lead with that. Be vulnerable, show that part, and show that, yes, we've gone through a lot of weird, unique things. Like we've moved to the other side of the world in the middle of a pandemic, starting a family and me starting a business with no connections at the same time.
Yep.
And then mixed with all that stuff, and then having you absorbing all these things of happy relationships and people that like friends that she thought had like the craziest sex life. After 2 years of seeing the cycle of new guy, old guy, new guy, old guy, she's like, that actually isn't what I want. And so I was like, the internet warped her. And I think to relate this to, I guess, maybe how it would help you with your stuff is by showing the rawness in your content versus like, this is just how you make a lot of money.
Yep.
Which is, again, because the internet is where every human's a fraud to a degree. You know what I mean? Like if shit's going on at home, when someone asks you how you are, depending on how well you know them, you're not going to be like, well, I had a fight with my husband the other day. Like, no, the same's on the internet. We always push just the great stuff. I think it's really cool too if there's lessons that you share along your journey where a mistake might have happened. Because the thing is, and this is where it terrifies businesses, we're worried that people, when they hear us talking about our mistake, means like they're going to be, oh, so you're not good at what you do. Mm-hmm. The opposite happens, because if you're telling about it and what you learnt from it, they're going to be like, oh, cool, they're not going to make that mistake with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's terrifying to businesses for,
yes.
So that was that long-winded story. Ended up getting so I've got questions actually, because you said you moved from Cuba? Or you are from Cuba?
I am from Cuba. Mm-hmm. I lived in Cuba until I was 18. Then I moved to the States.
And 11 years in Miami? Yep.
And then I moved here in 2011.
What's Cuba like?
Well, I haven't been there. I have been there in a period of 22 years. I have been there twice. Mm-hmm. And I tell everyone it was sweet and sour to me to go to Cuba, because the first time that I went, and that was not my decision, that was the government decision, because you came from Cuba when I came, and you immediately had some sort of papers. So I asked for permission to go and see my mom that was living in Paraguay at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had the hardest time to come back to the United States. Like they wouldn't allow me to go inside of the plane. They thought that the papers were fake. And I'm like, I'm never getting out of the country again until I finally get my citizenship.
Yeah.
And this was in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, in the airport in Sao Paulo. They were giving me the worst hard time to get me inside of that plane. Mm. And I'm showing them like credit cards and things and pictures, everything. And Anyway, so I got scared, and I'm like, I'm never leaving the States again until I finally get my citizenship. Well, it took me almost 4 years for immigration to process my green card, which usually they process like in a few months. And it took me 4 years. By the time that I got my green card, I was due to apply for my citizenship. So I did that. And then I was pregnant with my daughter. So anyways, by the time that I was going to visit Cuba, it was 7 years after the first time. And I got there, and it was 10 days, and I had all these memories, right? From when you were a kid, and everything was so tiring and so the same. Like the same people that I left sitting in the corner of my house when I left 7 years ago. They were still there. Yeah. Same people.
Wow.
And there is no future. And you see part of your family there, and they think they are living okay. And it's not okay. So I cried a lot during those 10 days that I was in Cuba. And I'm like, I can't come back. So had to go back like 2 or 3 years after, just because I was on the process of bringing my sister with her family to the United States. And so I had to go back to bring some paperwork. And I went for 3 days, including the day that I flew in. And so literally, I just went for the day that I had to do some paperwork and left.
Yeah.
And then after that, I have not been in there anymore. But I do have family there, not close family, like cousins, and I keep communication with them. Yeah. And Cuba, it's more of the same. A lot of excuses, and nothing happens. And it's very sad to see like an entire country so isolated.
Yeah, because when do they open back up, like that standoffish thing between America and Cuba? That was recent, a few years ago. Did they open travel?
They opened travel with Obama, and they shut it down again with Trump.
Oh, really?
Yes. So Americans are not allowed to go in unless it's like for certain type of like cultural exchange, or if you're going for like educational purposes or charitable purposes, like that type of deal. That's how Americans are getting in now. Yeah. But there is no like open travel between Cuba and the United States anymore. Really?
Because I know everyone was really concerned when it opened up. I had a few friends go because they're like, we want to get there before it becomes America. Like obviously it opens up within a week. You go to McDonald's, a KFC, Taco Bell. And they said it was really eye-opening. It was like a time warp, cars from the 60s. Yeah. And so, wait, so how many years were they open for?
Few years. I don't think it was too long. I don't think it was for too long.
And so, growing up, did you always want to come to America, or was it?
My family, I was actually very involved with the government. My mom was always like the rebel of the family. Yeah. So anyway, so I was starting to be a professional ballet dancer.
Okay, cool.
So I was studying that. So you couldn't really travel in Cuba, and that profession would allow you to go out and, meet the world. Out of Cuba, yeah. And so that's what I was going to school for. I actually graduated. Then I had this boyfriend since I was a little girl, and we grew up together, like being girlfriend, boyfriend. And when I was 16, his family had the opportunity to come to the United States, so they did. So we keep in contact, and he will always be like, oh, I want you to come to the United States with me. I'm like, I have like no family outside of the United States. And back then there was no internet in Cuba or anything, right? So I really didn't know what was out there. So I think you only do things like that when you're like 18. Yeah. You don't think too much. So I did. I came to the United States after him without any family here, real family anyways. And So his family took me as part of their family. And they are still up to, like, we're not together. I am remarried. And his family is still my family, you know, because I went through so many years before I could have my mom or part of my family here.
Yeah.
But I mean, growing up in Cuba at that time, it wasn't too bad. You wouldn't notice a lot of things, right?
You knew what you knew.
Exactly. And you had like a lot of like freedoms. Like kids will play on the streets. Like people won't hurt kids. You know, like people won't be scared if their kids were outside when it was dark. So you will always be like surrounded by people, and you will go to the beach and you will do stuff, you know, as a kid that you probably wouldn't do here.
I blame the news and sensationalism though for that.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone on a podcast recently where it was, I used to go to school 2 trains and a bus each way at the age of 12, no phone, because they didn't exist.
Yep.
That was never a problem. But then the anxiety of my parents went through the roof the second I got a phone because I'd missed a train. Why didn't you message me? I was like, why would I message you? I never did before. I didn't when I was 12. Why would I when I was 16?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like now, no one cares about the time that every kid gets home from school. You know, no one cares about that. But when one goes missing, it's terrifying.
Well, I'm still like, I have a 16-year-old and she's driving around town, and I'm like, when it's dark, I'm like, you need to be home. I'm calling her. Where are you? Mommy, I'm on my way. I'm just, you know, like she goes to high school, she's going to college, and she works, and you know, like I'm on my way, don't worry about it. And she doesn't understand, like, why do I get so worried when it's dark versus when it's not dark. I'm like, you know, like people are not outside a lot at this time, and you know, it's, I don't know, I just get
it's tricky. It's like, because I'm trying to emotionally prepare myself for those years. Like I'm constantly putting myself in that mindset because I know that it'll at least soften the blow a little bit, because it's one of those things where you just have to have faith, you know, because I'm seeing it even with the in-laws, with what I'm doing. And I've seen it with my parents with what I'm doing. They don't get it, but I know this is the right track. And they want the best for you. They want, you know, best for me and everything. But there comes a time where you're just like, fuck, I just hope, you know, I just hope this works out. I hope that nothing goes wrong. Because otherwise, if I squeeze too tight, I'm just going to pit my future daughter, who when she's 16, I'm just going to pit her against me.
Yeah.
It's not going to help. And I need to just, I guess, educate and then hope, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, I think when I was an 18-year-old, the amount of times I got out of being beaten up is astonishing. You know, like I just knew how to get out of the fight when like there was 3 times people tried to rob me. I became their friend somehow, you know? And I found the problem was that every time I told my mum a story of what had happened, that only fed her fear, that it started me to stop telling her stuff.
Yeah.
You know, versus being like, in one example, like this guy came up, I was drunk and I had a skateboard. I was 18. We can drink at 18 in Australia. It was legal. And he's a big islander. We call him Fobs in Australia. Fresh off the boat, we call it. He starts being friendly, and then he goes, give me the board. And I'm like, man, come on. Like, I'm drunk, so I have this like bit of confidence, but I just go, dude, try a trick, man. Like, hop on, give him the board, blah, blah, blah. And as he's like, you know, he's like, cool. And I'm like, I pick it up. I'm like, yeah, man, you have a freaking good night. And just walk off, keep looking. I'm like, you're awesome. Told my mum that. Not, instead of hearing like, wow, you handled that fantastic. It was, why were you at that place? Why were you like here? Because I was, you know, that's not the important part. It's the fact that some guy tried to rob me and I got out of it with a skill that I don't even know where I learned that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the thing I'm trying to figure out with the daughter in the future, where I'm just like, shit, okay, do I teach her Brazilian jiu-jitsu or get her taught that? Because that's the best thing. Do I take her to this guy, Tim Larkin, who fantastic, like you got to read his book. It's self-defense, but it's real self-defense. It's not the 1, 2, hit his nose. Like it's like gouge your eyes out because you need to figure out if there's life or death. And the amount of lives he has saved through his training is insane. I want my daughter to do that. Mm-hmm. It's not the pretty side. It's not how it should be. Like I shouldn't have to teach her this stuff. Yeah. But that ain't the world.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, all those things I'm trying to figure out because I know that the internet too of like I see parents with, I know some that their kids have their phone is basically a tracking device and it dings when they're at school, it dings when they're at this part. So these parents know where their kids are at all times. And I'm like, is that necessary? And this is coming from someone who's not. I'm coming from the kids' point of view for now, where like. I hate being tracked because for me, it feels like it's not about concern. I perceive it as you don't trust me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it's scary about where the technology will go. Also, I can see where the government ends up becoming like, this is for your protection. You don't want your kids getting away. Would you rather us be able to track them at all times? You're like, yes. And now as adults, they're still being tracked. You know, like there's all those things. But yeah, with your 16-year-old, I mean, I'm talking about a 7-month-old. So I know where this thought process is coming from. But yeah, and especially driving in Florida, there's some wackies.
It's not as bad here in Naples.
That is, Miami's wild.
Yeah. And she does drive in Miami because her dad's still in Miami. So she goes over there and she drives. And I'm like, I don't allow her to go to Miami on her own. So dad has to come and pick her up. And then I go and pick her up on Sundays.
Yeah.
But she's like, Mom, it will be so much easier if I drive. I'm like, I cannot do it.
It's true. It is easier. But yeah, Miami's different.
It is. No. I'm like, I even go to Miami and I get like my hands sweaty. I'm like, where are these people coming from?
Well, they'll drive past, like you'll be doing 70 and they drive past you like you stopped.
Yeah.
It's wild. It is
wild. And they're so aggressive. It's forget about, like I have been in other cities where, like they are driving fast or whatever, but they leave you alone. They don't leave you alone here. Yeah. They're like trying to call you. And they were like, okay, do you want to pass? Do I just brake? What do you need?
Well, the whole thing of like giving enough space between the car in front of you, it's annoying because I always want to do that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm not in a rush because as soon as a red light comes, I'm right behind that car anyway. Yep. I don't need to be tailgating.
I know.
But you leave a gap and then someone goes, boom, you're like, oh. And then I go back from that person. Someone else comes in. I'm like, dude,
now sudden you're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I'm driving back. I'm driving home somehow. I was meant to be going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. But I mean, LA was like that. That's where I learned what I term LA driving, where it's like, did you ever watch Family Guy?
No.
This joke, it's a stereotype, so it can be perceived as racist, but it's quite funny. So I'm going to say it anyway. It was the classic. You know how, so Peter Griffin, he'll say something like, oh, that's like blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then he'll do a cutaway. And he goes, man, that's as safe as, what was it? It was something along the lines of, that's as safe as an Asian lady on the freeway in California. Mm-hmm. And it cuts this lady. She goes, oh no, I need to cut across 6 lanes of traffic. Good luck, everybody. All of a sudden, 7-car pile up. But that's what, like, because LA is like that. It's just like, oh, I got to be over there. Sorry, guys. And it's like, good luck.
Yeah.
You know? And meanwhile, they're like tailgating at 80 miles an hour because a 6-car pileup in Australia is like unheard of. LA, it's like, I went there and I went, no wonder.
I travel a lot and I see like, in many other countries, like how they, like this lower vehicles, they drive on the right side, and even the ones that are going fast, they're passing you, but they still come back to the right. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen here. I have to take Immokalee Road every day. And it's like these 3 freaking trucks everywhere from the landscaping companies. Mm-hmm. And they're all driving at the same pace. And then people are trying to cut. And it's like, you see like all the things happening behind them to try to get past. And I'm like, people, why don't, you're both the three of you are going at the same speed. Why don't you just take the right lane and let the other people go over? No.
Yeah.
They don't care.
I learned how to navigate traffic when I was a bartender who worked like back when I was 19, because I learned to look ahead 5-6 people walking through a crowd, and I just pick my spots. And so my friend who would be like, he'd beeline it straight there, and whoop, he's straight there, but then he gets stuck behind a crowd of 3 people or whatever, and he's like, ah, and I'd be like, dum, 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 dum. But it was like a little maze. I do that with traffic now. Like it's carried on a decade beyond working in bars, where same thing. I'm not speeding, doing the classic 5 miles an hour over, which is hilarious that's okay.
That's okay.
It's a speed suggestion. It's not a speed limit. Okay, guys, we need to change the name. It's not a speed limit. It's a speed suggestion.
Yeah.
But I'll watch someone like aggressively cutting and going everywhere, and I'm like, all right, so that truck's traveling a little bit faster, so I'm gonna go vroom, 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 vroom. I'll go, and like I don't change lanes often, but he's like erratic changing all the time. I'm ahead of this dude, and I'm like, hey, bro. I love when people cut me off, and then I somehow get in front of them, and I'm just like, hey. But it's the same with, I guess, even with business. That translates there. Like, you're better off sometimes you go 20% slower to get ahead 80%.
Oh, there's nothing worse for a business than unprepared growth. That I see it a lot as a business killer. You're doing so well, then you're doing like me this year. I am not taking a lot of new clients. Like I have realized I need to find more people for my team. I need to do these. I'm also need time to finally put together the rebranding, and there are some other things that I need to do. I cannot then support the 100% growth that I have seen in the last 3 years every year,
Yeah.
So we're growing, but we're growing at our own pace. And sometimes I feel like business owners are driven more by the circumstances and the business itself than they actually, it's like if you're going on a boat and you just put an autopilot.
Yeah.
It's wherever it's going to take you. You're not even setting up a GPS or anything like it. It's just like, go.
Yeah.
And many business owners drive the boat like that.
Yeah.
They're not the captain of the boat. They just, go with the flow. And they crash.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the cool thing too is like knowing your limits, and there's a book called Oversubscribed. That one changed my thought process, which was always aim to be oversubscribed. So this is where attention is currency becomes into it. So for example, I know right now I can take on a certain amount of clients before it gets too much work to juggle my marketing, their marketing, and my editor before I need to start looking for someone. So my goal is to become oversubscribed, and I've got, oversubscribed means there's more people wanting to buy my stuff, but they can't right now, which everyone loves that unattainable thing,
Yep.
2 things happen. The second I hire someone, I can take on and, all those people, or at least a chunk of them, because hopefully I'm more oversubscribed than even my next step. But also, when you're oversubscribed, you can actually charge a slightly bigger premium, because now you've got more, supply and demand basically. Yep. And in this book, they use an example of personal training. And, personal training is always, the industry standard is at $75 for an hour and blah, blah, blah. This one guy in the UK went, I'm going to target billionaires only. And so he targeted billionaires, and it's like, I think it's like $100,000 a year US subscription. Only takes 8 people. But once you got one, like he's already making 6 figures from one.
Yep.
And so he even then has a 3 to 6 month waiting list. So if a billionaire's like, hey, I'd love to pay $100,000 a year, you need to wait 3 to 6 months, mate. And so that's great that you're doing that, because it'll only create more, especially now with what it sounds like you're looking to do now, which is also grow your brand awareness, that you can build those eyeballs. And then once you go, hey, we can take on 10 clients. You got 30, 40 people applying. Great. Pick the cream of the crop. Cool, we've selected them. Great. Locked off again. Keep working on the eyeballs. Keep them going again. Hey, we're up another 10. So it's like that. You're not overworked so that, you can still create a good product and build that reputation.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, because you're right. So many people take that. I used to be able to do that. Oh, I'll stretch myself out this way. And late 20s, I figured out, all right, cool, pull it in, bro.
Yeah, and you can only do it for so long. There's only so many hours during the day, and there's only one of you. So
well, also, if you can service, say, 10 people and you're trying to do 12, now you're known to not do the full job. Those 12 will become 10, will become 8, will become 6.
Yep.
Especially in this area where, again, your reputation is like, yeah, he's good, but, or she's good, but,
Yeah. I get a lot of those clients where they come back, they come to my table and they have had an experience with another CPA and they're like, they're good. They don't even know if they're good or not. And I see the work and they're not good. But they think they're good because they don't understand. Exactly.
They're like, yeah, they're good.
They're good.
Versus,
but
oh,
they
they're
don't
good.
return my calls.
Oh. You can always tell by the inflection though. They're good versus, oh, they're good.
Yeah.
There's the head versus like the head voice versus the
funny
diaphragm.
Story. I have one client. She has been with me for a year now. 6-figure tax liability. She comes to the table and she's like, my CPA is really good and really proactive, but so and so told me that I needed to talk to you. I'm like, okay, let me see what we can do. She's on the advisory services. She wants to do key employee succession, like we're planning for all of it. This lady had 1 commercial building and 5 Airbnbs. Any CPA, I will expect any CPA to see that and be like, oh, there is a potential cost segregation study here. It's like, you don't have to think much about it. And this lady was telling me that her CPA was very good and very proactive. Her tax liability this year was actually a refund.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like, so tell me again how proactive your CPA was. I didn't even had to go oh, super creative. Oh, let's invent this entire wheel. No. It was the easiest, simple strategy. But clients don't know what they don't know.
That's the thing. Yeah, and that's a good way, the reputation. And you need to know that's why I ask so many questions, even outside, you know. I've got, because again, it's like, it just ask, all right, I've heard about this. Hey, I think as well, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Yep, I agree.
Because again, it's like, if I think it's dumb, and I don't ask it, and then it turns out not asking it was dumb, I'm going to feel like 2 dumbs. Yep. And maybe, but I think that's maybe something with a lot of people. Like, they do it, set and forget, or they're afraid they're not going to, they might offend the person if they ask, hey, I heard about this. I think if someone gets offended, you should be worried. Like, wait, why are you offended that I'm, if you can't answer it, or if they come in guns blazing with their response, like, oh yeah, but blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, hey, hold on. You're a bit defensive on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in your industry, there's so much to know. Actually, every industry is, but it feels like there's something changing all the time. Which again is why I'm such a firm believer, just pay the person. Because you're right, you can sort of keep up to, I can keep up to date with social media. There's a lot of people giving out content on ideas and stuff, which is still doesn't, it means something, but it also doesn't, because the advice I'm giving to everyone in Naples area, you can go on the internet and find it.
Yeah.
It's nothing super crazy. 1, do they have the time to go and look for it? 2, do they have the time to execute it?
But it's at the same time very personalized, because it's not one box fix everyone. And I see it all, even my husband sends me stuff and says hey, do you know this? For people that are not even CPAs, I'm like, yeah, I kind of know something about it. S corps, that is the big example. People are like, you don't want to pay taxes, do an S corp. You know, like it does takes away part of the self-employment taxes. What they don't tell you is that you still need to draw a salary because it's a requirement. Like the officers that are active on the S corps, they need to draw a salary. It has to be reasonable compensation. And now you are stuck with a return that, you know, there are certain things that needs to happen. For example, if there's more than one shareholder, the distributions need to be according to the percentage of ownership. So this person kind of takes more money than what they should be taking, or the other person should have taken the same amount. A lot of things happen there. Now you're stuck with running payroll. There is a payroll expense now that you need to take into consideration. So does it make sense for every single person to open a business and do an S corp? No, not in my opinion. And I can show you with numbers why not. And I know it's painful because the self-employment taxes are high. But when I put them together, I'm like, you're still paying it. Just plan better. Let's just, you know, do your quarterlies. Let's just understand more of the business. Let's understand what write-offs you can take. And, you know.
Yeah. So because I think that's like my next step, because I got an LLC right now. So is it like, say for example, a business is bringing in 6 figures? Is there like a
sweet spot?
Is it a sweet spot?
I usually see it $50,000 to $70,000 net income.
Net income.
It starts making sense. Same thing with C corps. C corps are taxed at 21%. So everyone is like, that is amazing. Why I'm not a C corp? I only see it making sense tax liability wise. Usually when you're about $2 million net income
for a C corp. Okay.
Yeah. So
and net income, do you mean with that? That's like obviously your gross minus all expenses. And so are you looking more by net? Is that like, for example, say I'm I work for myself, like the sole proprietor, and I have an LLC and I'm bringing in $100,000, but I'm only paying myself, I'm bringing $100,000, $30,000 in expenses, but I'm only paying myself 40 and there's 30 left over. Do you mean that? Do the wages take away 40? And so the net's 30?
People get confused on like what is net income versus cash. Right? What is the cash that I have in the bank? That's how much, or the money that I took out of the business, is that how much net income is? It's not that. And there are many things that you need to take into consideration there. For example, very quick example, you have a car inside of the business. Well, you have the expense of paying the loan, but that is not considered part of your expenses for the net income. Only the interest part is, because in the accounting world, you're changing money for the more ownership of the car, right? So more equity inside of that car. So it's not relatively of the cash. It's more like, this is your gross sales and what are the allowable expenses that you will take out of those gross sales. That's what your net income is. 2021, 2022, meals is a special treatment because of COVID. They want to, incentivize the restaurant industry. So if you eat at a restaurant, you get 100% deduction for your meals. Usually it's 50%. So for you pay 100% for that meal. But when I'm going to take it as a deduction for any other year than 2021 or 2022, I only allowed to take, per IRS rules, 50% of those. So, it's not the cash that you pay. It's more like which ones are allowed as a deduction and on which line do they go. Okay.
It's so freaking confusing. This is why I pay people. Yeah. Because that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to think the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year game. Because I've heard people suggest S Corps, LLC, C Corps, bit of a game. we're getting the wrap up, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, I'm trying to figure out the next few moves.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a million more questions for you outside of this, probably. We're getting wrapped up though, guys. We're about to close Venture X, so I need to get out. So Suyi, do you prefer to be called Suyi or Yami?
I don't mind. Yami is what everyone calls me when I'm not in trouble. So
Right. or Yamirka when you're really in trouble.
When I'm really in trouble, ask my mom. It will be Yamirka.
So where can they find you if they wanted to get in touch?
You can find me online. Your SWFL.CPA.com. You can call the office 239-631-5305. That's usually Deb, my assistant. She's amazing, so she makes sure that everyone gets the proper attention.
Perfect. And guys, if you didn't catch that, it's in the description. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell as well if you're on Spotify or on, YouTube. And we'll see you guys soon. Bye for now. Thank you to Yami.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Alrighty.
Woo!